Well, since today is May the 4th, or at least it was at time of upload, I feel compelled to do something slightly Star Warsy. Also, conveniently enough, The Last Jedi is one of my written reviews I've been meaning to transform into video format, so two birds are about to get more stoned than an Iranian activist on 420. The Last Jedi picks up more or less where The Force Awakens dropped us off. Poe, Leia, Finn, and some other pieces of Resistance scum are in dire straits. Their spacecrafts are low on fuel and they're being pursued by the First Order led by a charred scrotum that identifies as Snoke. Meanwhile, Rey presents Luke with Anakin's lightsaber as Mark Hamill maintains his glare that appears to be an amalgamation of dread and sexually inspired rage that can only be matched by Barney the Dinosaur's lawyer as the prosecution unpacks a series of allegations from the early 90s. At this point in my written review, I issued out a spoiler warning, but The Last Jedi was released 8 years ago at time of talking, so surely such a heads up wouldn't... Wait, hang the fuck on, it can't be that old already. Fuck. The Force Awakens was heavily built on nostalgia. Anyone with a shred of knowledge about the film industry would have guessed that the very second J.J. Abrams was announced as writer/director. However, this installment trades shoving reminiscence down your throat for occasionally slapping you across your slutty face with it. From the very beginning, you could tell that The Last Jedi wasn't going to feel like the usual Star Wars experience. The opening scene embraces a contrast tone by ways of alarming urgency as the Resistance prepares to escape and light-hearted banter between Poe and General Hux as the planet-destroying dreadnought arrives. This exchange is closely followed by an outer space dogfight. Neither of these scenes are what you'd call traditional Star Wars modus operandi, especially the latter. Yes, of course, I know that battles in outer space within the Star Wars universe occur more frequently than your mum being triple stuffed, but this felt different. It was grittier, less elegant, and in ways more realistic than previous aerial combat scenes, including Rogue One. The choreography is sharp, and the different style of cinematography felt refreshing, unexpected, and on reflection is currently the best aerial battle scene in the history of the saga. However, it is within the action on the ground where The Last Jedi starts to falter. The fighting itself is fine, and none of these sequences qualify as too long, and it's unlikely that anything not involving Agent Smith or the Crazy 88 will be considered as such. My issue is that at no point, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, did lightsabers cross energy blades. We forgave Rogue One for this because it's an anthology story that deviated from the Jedi vs. Sith arc to focus on the shadowed aspects of the story. Besides, when a lightsaber did eventually turn up on screen, my god was it worth the fucking wait. This was not the case with The Last Jedi. There were plenty of opportunities, but because reasons, they were never made corporeal, meaning my cravings for a lightsaber duel were more starved than George R.R. Martin's publishers. Adam Driver did a better job as Kylo Ren this time around, although when sharing a scene with Daisy Ridley, they practically mimicked a couple of teenagers discovering their genitalia. Overall, he just doesn't do it for me as a Star Wars villain. I don't know if it's due to my disliking of the character or the role is ill-suited for the actor, but I'm just not feeling the direction that's been taken with this antagonist. When he and Snoke are together, they didn't feel like a duo of unrivaled evil hell-bent on total domination, far from it. The couple reminded me of a babysitter that's finally pushed over the edge when the little shit swans in wearing his grandma's clothes and takes a piss on the rug. When babysitter Snoke is disposed of, Kylo Ren takes on the demeanour belonging to a newly unhinged child wandering around with big dick boy energy. What very little intimidation factor the duo brought with them was completely demolished with Snoke's departure, thus the dark side carried proper fuck all amounts of threat thereafter. Let me give you some perspective. Vader's presence as a dangerous motherfucker was felt long before Sidious showed up in The Empire Strikes Back. To see Vader immediately bow down to Sidious made the viewers' arseholes tighten as the dark side revealed another tier in their hierarchy of evil, solidifying them as an iconic formidable duo. I can guarantee you'll remember Vader and Sidious long after Kylo Ren and Snoke. However, anyone who thinks that Darth Maul isn't the most badass Sith to have ever lived is a fucking fool. It's also worth noting that there's nothing resembling a Death Star in The Last Jedi. Of course, this was done in The Force Awakens by ways of Starkiller Base, but that was sacked off immediately, and since then the void is yet to be filled. Don't get me wrong, another huge fuck-off spear that's only purpose is to get blown up by the Resistance would be too copy and and paced. Abrams got away with it because of nostalgia, and I'm glad The Last Jedi didn't follow suit, but it's the presence that these two fuck-off spheres brought to the table that's absent. Much like The One Ring, I saw the Death Star as a character on its own. Being man-made didn't stop it from having a personality. It was visually intimidating, commanded respect, and it behaved like it was fucking with you at any chance it got. For example, when caught in the tractor beam on approach, at that point you're its bitch and there's no safety word. A feeling I could imagine is similar to being unwillingly dragged back into a soccer mom's bedroom because there's still more time to bone down before her ex drops the kids back from taekwondo practice. Also, when Han, Leia, Luke and Chewie were stuck in the garbage disposal room, it felt like the Death Star acted quickly. A random creature from within the trash attacked shortly before the walls started to enclose upon them. It behaved like it had a mind. Starkiller Base was its spiritual successor but had different characteristics which worked as a nod towards the fanbase but allowed it to be different enough to stand alone. As it was constructed within a planet, there was a pandemic feel to the base, like it was a virus that somehow embedded itself within an organic environment. In ways it mirrored humankind's impact on planet Earth, but I am way too sober at time of writing to take that hypothesis any further. The inevitable destruction of Starkiller Base was nowhere near as quick as its predecessor. The slow, resilient demise resembled that of a creature emerging from the foundations, the mountains being split in two, the forest falling and metal being tortured looked like it was engineered in a way that was designed to hunt down whoever its chosen victim was. Alas, The Last Jedi had no such construction that resembled this, and if creative were trying to reenact it with Snoke's ship, they failed dramatically. Also, did anyone else notice that the loss of Starkiller Base didn't seem to dent the baddies' eminence in any way whatsoever? They literally lost a planet's worth of aircraft, weaponry, foot soldiers, commanders, generals, and intel, etc. Surely that would delay the whole ruling the galaxy thing, but no. With fuck all time between episode 7 and 8, their bounce back ability had to be so fucking efficient that not even Wolverine mainlining turmeric could keep up. A lot of people have said that this is Mark Hamill's movie, yet criticised his character's development. Let's be realistic here, he was never going to be the same Luke from the original trilogy. A lot can happen to a person who's been in solitude for over 30 years. Besides, no Jedi retirement plan is complete without travelling to a desolate shithole in the name of transforming into a weird pensioner that gets youths to practice gymnastics, poi, and mastering the art of being shot at. Rey's interaction with Luke pretty much parallels that of an impatient child pestering her dad to use his chainsaw. The inevitable will happen and her path to amputee porn will be underway. The nagging was just way too fucking overbearing at times. Yeah, I get it's meant to highlight Luke's reluctance to reconnect with the Force and fuck up again like he did with Kylo Ren, but the process of all that perceived Rey as a persistent, importunate bitch. Honestly, she was harassing Luke so much that I wanted to jump into the movie so I could show her the ways of my Force. MVP goes to Carrie Fisher, not because I take pity over what happened. If only I was capable of such emotion. No, she was a lot more involved this time around. She mirrored what I said about Harrison Ford in my Force Awakens review. She gels well with the new faces of the franchise and passes the torch with a dignified bow out. Her performance was solid as well. At no point did I feel she was included for the sake of it, and she also owned every scene she was in. What I don't understand is why people complained about the moment when she used the Force to protect herself from space asphyxiation. Leia has always been Force sensitive. Remember, this is the same Force that makes you capable of wandering around as a supernatural hologram after death, so I don't think summoning a Force bubble to use as a shield is completely preposterous in this universe. Plus, in the comics, Darth Maul used the Force to keep himself alive after Duel of the Fates, which in my eyes is more ridiculous than what happened here. Besides, it was Carrie Fisher's last ever proper appearance in a Star Wars movie, so feel free to keep your dick trap shut, it's not that deep. I don't mind filmmakers including contemporary issues within their movies if it's done tastefully and weaved discreetly into the narrative. See Sausage Party for a perfect example of this. The Last Jedi had no place for it, but was included regardless. Finn and Newbie Rose go on a secret mission to find some awesome codebreaker guy to aid the Resistance in escaping the First Order's fleet via sneaking onto Snoke's ship and hacking into the tracking system to disable their ability to follow them through hyperspace. This adventure deviates us significantly from the main story and puts the whole movie on pause in exchange for a chase scene and a brief opinion on war profiteering. Truthfully, I couldn't tell you how long this side quest went on for, but at 2 hours and 36 minutes, I believe The Last Jedi is simply too long, and there's not enough substance within the plot to justify stretching itself that far. What would I do differently, I hear you scream? Okay, I'll tell you. Rose works in maintenance on Resistance ships, and Finn is a former stormtrooper who defected to the Resistance in The Force Awakens Awakens, right? So instead of having the pair leave the Resistance ship and going to another planet to look for this codebreaker guy, resulting in way too much faff and numbing arse cheeks, the writers could have had Rose be a codebreaker. You know how it goes. It could be because she needed to learn the craft to survive her rough upbringing, or some other cliche bullshit the film industry gets off on, and Finn would obviously act as the guide around the ship he'd be familiar with. To me, that just makes more sense in every way. The movie overall would feel less bloated. Finn would have a chance to enter a situation that causes him to be more than one-dimensional. It would also provide Rose with a deeper backstory, and most importantly, I wouldn't have to be dragged through unsubtle subliminality. I'm certain that's not a word. Kylo Ren said towards the end of the movie, "Let the past die. Kill it." Not only does that sound like the instruction issued out by Walt Disney to everyone involved on The Last Jedi, it also summarises the film itself and the new trilogy perfectly. George Lucas, gone. 20th Century Fox, gone. John Williams, fortunately not gone, because as always his contribution to a Star Wars movie made me achieve an eargasm. Death Star type thing and Han Solo, gone. Carrie Fisher is obviously no longer with us, but Leia survived The Last Jedi's events, and I believe her inclusion in The Rise of Skywalker was conducted as best as it could have been, all things considered. Luke scuttled off to join Yoda et al, but flirted with the potential to return in Episode 9 via Force Ghost, which did end up happening. Also, Admiral Akbar didn't deserve to be done dirty like that. An off-screen death for a character of his caliber is akin to placing Ragnar Lothbrok's corpse in a deflating dinghy before missing it wildly with flaming arrows made out of bollocks as it gradually sinks to the bottom of a trolley-infested canal. So we entered Episode 9 without what was essentially the backbone of the original trilogy, and a huge reason why people bothered to continue watching Star Wars movies. The only surviving characters from the 70s at present are two droids and the Wookiee. Those seeking nostalgia from what follows chronologically will be disappointed, or at the very least disheartened, because there's only so much C-3PO, R2-D2 and Chewie can do. This of course did not affect how well future Star Wars films performed at the box office. They would always make a disturbing amount of money regardless, but in terms of the quality, I think we've seen a noticeable dip. I don't think that Ridley and Driver have the minerals to carry the franchise and all the expectations that come with it into the elated state of its predecessors, leading me to theorise that the potency of the Force's presence in each upcoming offering will be weaker than Taylor Swift's efforts at performing a satisfactory tit wank.